All right, the recording is on. Before we get started, please remember that we're under the CNCF Code of Conduct, so be excellent to each other. And as always, we do record these meetings and publish them to YouTube on the regular. Welcome. The date is January 10th. We are at week 2 of 2023, already 1% through the year. Great job, everyone. And this is the bi-weekly Cloud Custodian Community Meeting. It's our high bandwidth bi-weekly meeting where we talk about all the stuff that's happening around Cloud Custodian development and kind of see where we're at. As always, we have an open agenda. I have a few things here already, and feel free to add your own. I'll go ahead and toss that URL in the chat, and then we'll get started. Anyone got anything before we get started? Anyone want to say hello? It's their first meeting, or got something burning? AJ, did you get some good holiday gifts?
Some good holiday chill time, like you said. It was a good time.
All right, let me let these few people in who are waiting. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, all right. Yeah, as I was saying too, welcome back, everyone. The calendar is all updated for 2023. You can always find that at cloudcustodian.io/calendar, and that's all up to date forever. And then I'll keep the notes there for the Slack invite page if you want to keep inviting people. I know that we've seen more activity here over the break, so if you are looking for a way to help out the community, we always have a bunch of outstanding questions in Slack and people looking for help. Before we get started, we have a release update, and then we'll go through the PRs and things that have changed since the last one. Opinions on releasing in January?
Yes. Clockwork. Release every month.
Okay. If you're looking at the notes, the amount of PRs and issues is smaller than usual. But all right, so we're just going to crank it one more time. Sonny, you have any outstanding issues or any color from last time? Because I don't think we had a. I think we just released a roll-up release, and that was it for the end of last year.
No real big updates aside from there was some. I think there's some regressions in the Tencent provider, but those since been fixed and they'll be fixed in the next release. Other than that, I don't know off the top of my head any big PRs that I've gotten recently. But other people have things that they need to prioritize. Just let me know and I'll take a look at them.
And then I'll put on here, normally we would target to release around this week. So I guess we'll just say, are we shooting for next week? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think next week is reasonable.
Okay. Some Tencent. Were they regressions or just fixes? Fixes.
Actually, I think they're just fixes.
Okay.
I don't think those resources were in the in the 2 releases ago. So.
Got you. All right. Anything else release related before we move on to the PRs? All right. We have 4, and if you have any more, please feel free to toss them in chat or just let me know. The first one, Kapil, disabling trivia. I saw this thread in chat about some noise here.
Yeah, it's mostly, so we use Trivy to scan our Docker images before they get uploaded, and unfortunately it has to download a vulnerability database, which has some size, and it wasn't being cached, and the way that so for right now, it's effectively just disabled. I don't know that we're actually doing anything useful with the data with the output of it either, so there's a separate question there. They do have a native GitHub action, which I'd like to use, which does support uploading the results back. So that actually might make it more useful, but getting that integrated into how we were consuming Trivy when passing the image shot needs to be revamped. I think in general, like as I have been going through some of the CI stuff, there's definitely a need for a revamp. But I think on just updating versions, like GitHub deprecated like the old way of passing variables around, let's say, and so a lot of our CI stuff flags. There's also an opportunity to simplify our caching because the latest Python major versions of that action have direct support for poetry and incorporating pip caches directly in. So some of the gymnastics we're doing can potentially be simplified. So I'd like to take a look at that just to see if we can simplify some stuff. Yeah, see all those print statements, like that's no longer supported. I think was the issue. Yeah, set output is no longer supported, if I remember correctly, was the underlying issue. I think that they found some sort of security issue with it, and so that is verboten now. But most of, even if we remove our own uses, most of our currently pinned actions use it. So just getting all that updated, I think, is really what I'm talking about. It shouldn't really be any real actual changes. Is probably negligible. And I think there was also something I saw that I might have already added this, but GitHub now has support for like auto limiting concurrency and canceling previous jobs that are in flight. I forgot if that already got added in. So just looking at cleaning some of that stuff up. So nothing particularly big. Just thought that might be just some yeah, that already got merged. Just some housekeeping on CI is what I was looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Did we already drop 3.7 in CI? Oh, we did.
It is not. I don't know if it is. We should add 3.11. Now that looks like AJ got to the rate limiter thing and GCP that was causing us issues there.
Is this one? No,
so,
that one's not it.
So we
Docker
should
build?
add for. Sorry, you're looking.
Oh,
for
I'm just trying to find where will we have that?
Have what?
Like the minimal Python version. Is that what he's asking?
Oh yeah, if you go to ci.yaml or go down here to the bottom of this file, yeah, go to the bottom. They're not the bottom, but like the top of the one you're on. There's a middle matrix line. Yeah, those. So those are our four versions of Python that we do. So the notion would be, as part, I guess, also look at dropping 3.7 and adding 3.11.
Mm-hmm.
And 3.11 has some significant speed improvements, so it would be. That should also be nice if you have that option in your local deployments. It should be a nice boost.
Yeah, I remember having this discussion. We were wondering what LTS systems are still shipping 3.7, right?
I think the only thing I could find was like an old RHEL, like a RHEL 5 or 6, I think.
Okay.
But everything RHEL 7 benches at least on 3.8.
Okay.
I'm still hoping Lambda ships 3.11. I mean, I haven't shipped 3.10 either, so we'll see.
Yeah, and there's the part of this, if we're going to change CI, the minimum version of CI, we would probably want to update our poetry config also, like the PyProject TOML, just to make sure we don't put a different version in there, like a lower version in there that we're not testing, and then run into weird, like on 25. Yeah,
sounds good. And if people are on older enterprise Linux distros, I think the general suggestion would be to use the Docker image.
Docker container, yeah.
Do we want to drop a message somewhere in the CLI about 3.7 deprecation? I mean, I guess if the thinking is it'll affect mostly LTS systems, like people probably won't see it.
Here it is.
Yeah, I mean, if they upgrade, then they'll see it just on the basis that it breaks. Total non-run policy is probably one where I'm okay. Like we can only assume unattended systems on upgrades, but I don't know that Yeah, it's a good question. Like one policy failing versus the entire CLI run failing. I don't really know if there's anything reasonable to do outside of staggering the releases, and even then, it's unclear that anyone would see it. So I'm okay just doing it and publicizing it, and
Okay.
we'll get feedback if
At a minimum, we'll start saying it over and over and over again, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else Python related, release related? Sorry, GitHub action. Sounds like we're just talking about all the GitHub actions now. Okay. Next, AWS RDS cluster, add DB cluster parameter filter. Who this?
This one's from us. I
Yep,
believe
I
there
see
were
it.
already some initial review and discussion, and I think it's ready for some final review. AJ might already said it looks good, and I think we're just waiting for Sunny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had both chimed in a little bit. I was fine after I saw you had already done some reviews on it, Darren, too, and you and Sunny worked through stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I thought this got merged to the December release. Or, I don't know. It might be one that I missed. I'll try to take a look at it sometime before the release.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that's one. Next is added filter in action for target group attributes.
I think same thing as well. I think Sunny might have made some comment, and it has been addressed. So it's just a matter of final review.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'll just look at the doc that George wrote up for this meeting.
I'll PM him specifically to you.
Okay,
don't
yeah.
worry. Yeah.
It's just hard with all the jars and stuff. Sometimes you just can't see the ones that you've been pinged on and stuff. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
part of the reason we like the meeting is to kind of help us prioritize what's actually blocking people. And then the last one would be add server-side filter query support to RDS and config pull rule.
Yeah, and I'm taking a look at this one. I see there's a merge conflict that looks like it was just because a couple different RDS tests added. That's okay. And there was a change in December. I did not see that one. So yeah, thanks for bumping it in the meeting. The boom. I'll take a look at it.
Okay. So two for Sunny, one for AJ. What else do we have here? I like these short weeks. Any issues that are burning anyone? Oh, I'd like to bring this one to everyone's attention. It's just a tracking bug for meeting the CNCF graduation criteria for this year. Now that we're incubated, we've done most of the work already and everything is in draft. So I think for the governance once, I've linked to the issue there. It's mostly pulling that out and proposing it and then fighting to get that merged. There is a third-party security audit that we're going to have to go through. That's kind of run by the CNCF, and I've went ahead and filed that ticket. You might not have access to the CNCF's help desk, but that's the number. In case anyone ever wonders, that is the number that you'll need to reference if I'm not here. And then we've got most everything else, the adopters.md. We have the CI best practices badges and all that stuff. So that's more of a dotting I's and crossing T's. And that is I filed that issue this morning. And anything else? Did AJ, you mentioned a WAV thing to me the other day?
Yeah, that's that 8118. That's a few down from the issues opened. I did not boom that one.
Okay,
but
all right.
It was worth it. So I did, I think, and you had mentioned that it was worth a ping to Harish, which I did. Oh yeah, that this one, Kristen reported the issue. I have the PR. The PR is where there's the actual. I did mention Darren in a review only because I think you Intuit folks have done some of the work on WAF v2, at least using some of the WAF v2 stuff. So I didn't know if this is something you might have run into, where just because you need to pass that scope when you're listing web ACLs for WAF v2, it was doing that properly on pull mode policies. It wasn't on the CloudTrail mode, the Lambda mode deals. So this change is supposed to fix that. But
I had a look at this. I was a little bit, the way that get resources there is implemented, it like fetches everything and then it client side filters. I was wondering about it, just doing describe web ACL instead of doing the list would get us just the one thing that was fetched. I looked, checked out some of the related filters and some of the WAF enabled filters, and it doesn't look like they're actually using the get resources directly, so it would never be an array. I'm just wondering about like fetching a bunch of data and throwing it all away just to fit for one versus just fetching that one is really just the consideration I was trying to think there.
That's fair. So instead, this would be one of those where we'd need some kind of a cutoff where, like, if we only had a few, we do describe for each one, and then if we had too many, we'd fall back to that list to pull everything in one shot.
Yeah,
that could work.
like I'd say probably under 3, because like 99% of the time for an event based, it's just a single one. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know that orgs run with a lot of web ACLs, like more than like a dozen in an account, but I could be overthinking it too.
Hey, I have done my fair share of over and under thinking, so that's why we have these meetings. Yeah, all right, can take a look at that one then.
It's interesting. We use quite a bit of the CloudTrail mode for the WAF v2 policies. Sorry, I'm trying to understand what this change helps with. What does this do?
So if you're doing WAF v2 policies on underlying resources, like say on a load balancer or something like that, it's fine.
Yeah.
The challenge here was a CloudTrail event-based policy on CloudTrail for the WAF itself. The WAF wasn't able to be retrieved.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, it was trying to do, it would say like, well, if you did create web ACL and it would have that ARN, it would try to list with the ARN, and then that policy run would fail. It'd say like, all right, you gave me an ARN, but you didn't give me scope, because we were only handling that for the pull mode.
Okay, cool. Thanks for breaking that down.
Sure. But yeah, that's good. It's a reasonable thing. We might not need to pull everything. Okay, I'll have to rethink that one.
Cool.
Actually, there's a separate interesting question here on something that's been on work that I've been wondering about, trying to do something about, which is, so even in the context of the WAF, right now, I think it's going to go to regional by default on this query, because like, how do you know if it's regional or global? Well, you have to look at the event, and there's no real way to specify that inside of our event ID's expression per se, which is a similar problem that happens with some of the child resources where we need to explicitly enable support for it. And I was wondering about just adding a method to like the resource type as like a static method to be able to try to extract out the ID, so we can have some code look at it. Like for child resources, you have to get the parent ID and the child ID out of the event. In this case, you need to potentially grab something arbitrary out of the event if it's a create web ACL. So being able to pass that through to some Python code that could actually look at it, as opposed to having the user have them specify it, both of them might be easier. But the challenge has always been it's a little bit dicey depending on which API call you're doing. But if there's a standard format per type, then it might work. Just throwing it out there. But that's not directly related. It's just something that's been on the back of my head about something that seems to have come up in the last few months a few times.
Okay.
Moving on.
I was like, I understood some of those words.
George, I added something to the chat. There was something that just got approved by AJ. Thank you so much for doing that quickly, AJ. But yeah, we did find this little bug in Redshift backups. It's looking at the end time instead of the start time. It's a small change, but yeah, thank you for getting that approved. Are we trying to get this thing like merged in also before next week, or how does it work if something is approved? Like, can we just kind of assume that that's going to get merged in before the release, or should we usually call that out anyways? Do you guys run like a check before releases or anything?
We don't. Eventually, we should, but like raising it here is probably the right thing. I mean, we kind of fell down during all this. I think a lot of people are on vacation, but generally we try to get things that are approved merged. But
Yeah,
there's gaps.
For,
This one, I'm just going to merge. I think it's out of date, so we need to run an update on it and then wait for the test. And then sometimes you like goldfish away to do something else and then end up leaving the thing hanging. Just speaking for myself. So yeah, that can happen though.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd say most of the time, like if there's stuff that urgently needs to get released, raising it here is good. I also try to look at like at least like the last 3 or 4 pages of pull requests, check the stuff that's approved, because sometimes there's also stuff that's been approved with like a note saying like, oh, if you please modify this one little thing before we merge it in, and then the contributor either forgets or doesn't see the message, and so sometimes stuff can hang like that. But if there's stuff that you're like, I really need to try to get this into the release and it's already in the approved state, if we forget, just bring it up here. It's a good place, or just ping one of us on the again.
I don't think I've really ever seen that happen. Usually stuff does get merged and stuff. But yeah, just wanted to ask. Basically, just reach out to make sure that if we know there's like an upcoming release or something that it's on the agenda for merge.
Yeah, at the risk of becoming really unpopular, should we investigate something like a label workflow or some kind of automation where the merge just happens after you get X amount of approves, or some other? I know different projects do it a different way, but or do we have a way to say all of these have been approved but not merged?
Yeah, I mean, like filtering on the PR page is like the easiest. You can just filter by status approved.
Yeah.
I will say the other situation that causes problems is because we require pull requests to be based on master. Sometimes pull requests will not merge cleanly. Requires the contributors to go update the branch. I would say it's relatively rare. Like most of the time, there's a conflict. It's probably dependency related, so like a poetry log file or PyProject toml.
Right.
There are cases where people are just working on the same file at the same time, and one gets in before the other, and then that requires some more delicate handiwork. But yeah, those are usually, I'd say that's probably the most usual case of it's approved, but we can't merge it because there's conflicts. And I mean, as maintainers, we could typically fix it, but sometimes we have other stuff that comes out, so we don't get to it. But yeah, from the contributor side, if there's a merge conflict, like definitely appreciate any merge conflict resolutions that happen on your side.
Would it help if, sorry, I'm just kind of spitballing here. If people are wondering whether something's going to make a release or not, I'm wondering if like X days before you start cutting a release, you know, do we start to say stuff? Hey, if you have an approved PR but it's not merged, here's your window. Like, does having maybe like a dedicated merge window, perhaps?
I mean, the maintainers are the ones that do the merging. So it's really
Okay,
only in those cases that I brought up where like there's some additional work that needs to happen on the contributor side
got
in
you.
order to get it in. But yeah, for the most part, like if it's approved and there's like some small stuff, like I've gone in and fixed stuff for contributors, like just because it's a small thing, it doesn't take a
Yeah,
lot of time, but it does add up. Like if it's like there's a lot of merge conflicts and like trying to resolve each and every one of them, it just takes a while. Sometimes just
right.
doesn't get done.
Right.
So
Oh, did someone just kick this one?
Yep, that's it. As we're discussing things being
Okay, all right.
out of date and needing to update, and then all the tests rerun. I was just going to mention a comment in the chat too about, it's a new year, new thoughts around like how can we help the CI, the dev experience. Like that stuff is,
Yeah,
I mean, I know that's stuff that we're all thinking about at different times, trying to make this stuff a little better so that it's harder for things to fall through the cracks.
yeah, I will say probably the biggest thing is the fact that the CI does take a decent amount of time. I mean, for most of the tests and for most of the operating systems, it's not bad. It's usually like Windows will be the one straggler, and then from there, I click update branch, I come back like 5 minutes later, the Windows test is still running, and then I leave, and then I forget about it. That's the typical use case. It's not like I'm like actively ignoring pull requests. It's just like sometimes the CI doesn't finish and I just forget. So yeah, maybe if there's a way to, I mean, I don't think we should make the Windows one optional, but I don't know. That's the one straggler that kind of makes it a little bit annoying. And then I think code cov too sometimes takes a bit of time to report back. It's gotten
For sure.
less flaky lately, like because I'll check, and for anybody that wants to know how to check this, if you check the Ubuntu Python 3.10 runner, and then check the upload code coverage section in the GitHub Actions window, you're basically looking for a success message. If you see the success, the code cov stuff will come back eventually, but sometimes it fails and you have to like kick the job off again, and that's annoying. But luckily, code cov has been much less flaky than it was in November-ish or December-ish. I know we've also been thinking about investigating alternatives as well.
So, yeah, I would say generally CI goal would be like 5 minutes, because after that it's really too easy to time out, and that causes delays. But I don't know if there's yeah, I think we could probably move code cut to 3.11 because 3.11 will probably be faster. Yeah, there's also options on getting rid of code cov and just doing it inline. I've used things like that. I like the annotation stuff can be nice too. One other, like when I think about developer experience though, like so the speed of CI is definitely a huge thing. The other thing though is being able to just install and work on a single provider, because most people don't care about running all the providers, and so that's the job for CI. So potentially like adding to our docs on how to just get a dev environment set up for a single provider, because I don't care about. I was updating my dev environment today, and I ran into some dependency on Pi Crypto Dome, which I'd never heard of before, and I was like, it wasn't compiling on my Mac, and so I just went down this rabbit hole, and it was for somehow I don't think it was in 10-cent provider, but that's where, anyways. If you just want to work on a single thing and you can get it done fast, like we could probably update our developer docs on like how to just work on a single provider. Because
So
otherwise, like
currently-
downloading Azure is like a gigabyte plus. And then the other thing I noticed was that which has been worrying me in the background, is our repo size is getting really big. It's like, I don't know, 450 megs now, and I don't know if something's happened when we switched out, if it's literally just that's how much data we have, or if there's something wrong with the GitHub pages branch updates that are causing things there. I was just a little bit concerned about our repository size, and I don't have any fact-based awareness on why that is. It's something that's been in the back of my head as something that feels a little too large.
I have a
And I'm
352
looking around for
megs on
tools.
disk. That's what I have.
Yeah. If you run, okay.
Is there like a Git
I think
Git du style thing, or?
yeah, I was trying to find one. I think there's something called Git Sizer I found from GitHub, but it doesn't actually do anything useful for me, like as far as actually being able to explore the size a little more clearly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like knowing how to use Git Sizer was its own problem. Let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like this one's at least going to run 10 minutes. This Windows one. So when
And
you're
so that's
talking
the
about
other
the
thing we
dev
can do.
environment,
One-
if oh, sorry.
I was just thinking on Windows, if we could actually probably switch that one. Once we get 3.11 going, we should, like, we generally just run the latest, like Windows
NCI.
and Mac both basically just run the latest version, and that might give us an extra minute or two on speed improvements. And then switching to maybe, I don't know that switching actions is going to help at all, but potentially. But yeah, it alternates based on how much stuff we have, how many tests we have. But if we need to
So
figure out ways
currently,
to make the test go faster to get that SLA, then that's what we need to do.
so if you do a PR and AWS thing and you fix the one AWS thing, the test will run on all the providers still? Is that what you were
Yes.
saying before? Dang. Okay.
Well, for CI, I don't think we're saying that we want different behavior. Just when you're
Right,
doing
right.
dev locally, right?
Right.
Yeah, and there are some tools that'll help try to find out like what actually changed in a diff, and then focus and only run the tests that are relevant. But that's a bigger lift. That's
Yeah.
certainly stuff to investigate. It's stuff we've talked about before. I think there are some other things we can do that'll make things more dev friendly, even if it doesn't directly impact the CI time. Like what Kapil's talking about with only working on certain providers, we can handle some of that with defining different dependency groups. Where you say like, all right,
Sure.
if I'm working on GCP, install like C7N GCP,
Sure.
and things like that, and that might be
Okay.
nice.
All right. Anything else? I don't think we want to do self-hosted actions.
And to be clear, we're way better than a lot of CNCF projects in terms of CI times. Which
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Envoy and Kubernetes are like,
Yeah.
like forget the coffee break. He'll get a lunch.
Yeah. So 9 minutes 30 seconds for Windows there on this particular one. All right. Any other?
I just
Oh,
stuff
go ahead,
running in
David.
the messages.
Got
We
you.
have a thing we're running into with RDS snapshots, copy related tags. It's just going from RDS down to snapshots. It looks like it's an error that's been around for a while. I just didn't know if anybody had time to peek at it, and I linked it there.
Let me get it.
And to be clear, I just picked up on it from one of our tools. It looks like well.
Yeah, happy to. I mean, that one does not look familiar to me, at least. I don't know if it is to anyone else, but happy to take a look.
Yeah, I mean, it's old, but and I haven't had anybody on my side look at it, honestly. I was running through one of our reporting tools, and this one showed up with about 26 accounts that were failing out on it.
Yeah. We probably just need to. I see it. I think I understand it.
It's just a mismatch somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's basically like we try to The related filter tries to use get resources, and get resources tries to use server-side filters when they're in play. But when you hand it a list, it can't do that. So we just probably need to either handle that in the get resources implementation there for that source. But yeah, that's relatively straightforward. But no, thanks for moving it.
Just scream if you want somebody. I mean, I could ask somebody on our side to look at it too. It's fine. I saw it when I was on the call, so I thought I'd pick it up.
Yeah, sometimes I put them in the notes and it's like, hey, is anybody seeing this? And I'll at least get attention from other people that might be suffering silently. Yeah, that's always. I have gotten those before where someone's like, oh, I wasn't going to say anything, and then you only need one other person to tell you that you need it. So
yeah,
that's all we need. All right. Do we have anything else? All right, welcome back to 2023, and we'll give you all 20 minutes back. Thanks everyone for showing up, and we'll see you all 2 weeks. Notes and video will be forthcoming. Thanks everyone. Be excellent to each other. Cheers.
Thanks everybody.